Holton here, and giving you some updates on what exactly is going on Maui. So much to talk about, but I have provided some links to stories as well as videos related to everything out and some interesting things I'd like to share with everybody out there. So if you don't have any time for this video, just check out those links. There might be something there that catches your eye or that you want to share with someone. So, and a little bit about me. My name is Matt Holton. I'm an artist, a coach, a YouTuber, and my ties to Maui is that I was born and raised in Kula, and my parents' neighborhood was right on the edge of fires below them and above them, and a number of homes in Kula in their neighborhood were destroyed. Parts of their roof were affected. They had to evacuate. They're having the roof replaced. No major damage. I did see a little bit of singeing inside their home. So I've gone back to Alonzo Johnson, a whole bunch of new stuff I have to share. But along those lines, my girlfriend Cristina, who there's a link to her below, will be going back to Maui tomorrow. Aloha from Colorado. So watch some of her content. She's going to be interviewing one of my friends, some business people, try to get my parents to share some of their stories or advice that they have experiencing something so close to the fire. So, and as always, right, I start off with this horrific things that happened on Maui and continue sort of to, the disaster isn't over quite yet, as we can, we'll talk about in a bit. But right, KPOA 9, is a great radio station. I listen to them daily. They have information, ways you can get involved, support, help. The music is just awesome. There's a lot of ads right now for attorneys, and big outside advertisers are on their airwaves, but the music is top notch, and they are in the heart of it and really bringing a lot of spirits up there. So if you want to be a part of that and listen to what's going on, as well as Hawaiian music, check out KPOA. Let's see, what else do I have there? I have the Lahaina Strong Fund, which is an athletic fund for athletes and coaches. I was a coach on Maui. I was an athlete on Maui. I know the value that sports has played in my life and what it'll play probably in many lives going forward, especially when dealing with such a traumatic incident. Right, the whole town being destroyed just is just I still can't comprehend it even when I say it now, even though I've seen so many images. It's completely devastating. I also have a Venmo Instagram that has Venmo accounts to families, and you have to do your own research, but it's a good place to reach out to if you want to help individual family, which a lot of people are recommending, and I think I am as well. That's maybe one of the best ways is to focus your attention on somebody's story, find out their story, and find out ways that you can help. Maybe it is in just hearing their story. Maybe it's just by sending them a package of something nice from where you live. But maybe making that connection is something we all have to go out and personally find. But I would recommend doing something like that if you have a way of helping people in any way, right? And holidays are coming up. That might be a nice thing to think about. And I am thinking about some of the families in my parents' neighborhood. Let's kind of make this a good Christmas for all the people who will still be affected by this. So, and then as always, right, I do keep an eye on the daily visitor numbers. The visitor numbers, while they are trending up from what it looks like the bottom, which was under 2,000 visitors a day, it's about 3,000. This is a low part of the season, or not, winding down from the summer peak usually. So numbers are coming down from travel, but if you look at that chart, you can see it just fell off, and then it's not really coming back. But there is a little bit of upward trend. So, and then I do have a link to one of Christina's videos below and her channel. And in that video, we did some research and she put together a small presentation with some links about John Pelletier, the infamous chief of police, who I don't know why he hasn't resigned yet, but um, what kind of toxic environment was created there as soon as he came in, really, from being the incident commander in the Vegas shooting. He came in, and I guess morale was at an all-time low before all this happened. So there's obviously some major concerns of leadership that were signaled to even the commission, the police commission. So check out that video if you want to learn a little bit more, and then read those articles if you want to get the details of some of the surveys and the, I don't know, questionable practices with financing for him, and I don't know, it's not good. And then right, everybody's been asking, where are the children, right? Where, and some people, I know a lady who's going to Maui to specifically look for that. But I do have a question. I mean, an article from, let's see, it's the Civilbeat, which is a one source of journalism here that I do go to from time to time that does some good work. But the article is called DOE, Numbers of Student Missing Killed in Maui Fires is Too Small to Release. A very odd title there. But this article is about the concerns of the public for all the unaccounted children. The article does list 2 victims, but the I guess the conflicting, well, neither the state or county seems to be very good in numbers or giving numbers out to the public. So, right, the numbers of the missing list has been all over the place. It's now down to 66, but there's hello, Art. But there's another 8. I mean, other the numbers are just like ridiculous. But beyond what the police and the FBI have provided, right, the Department of Education has been there's a whole hundreds of kids that aren't accounted for, and the public really is asking them to go out and reach out so that we can find, you know, we're over a month in, and it seems just ridiculous that there is still so many questions on something as simple as the number. But if you're interested in at least a perspective of what some of the people on the ground here are feeling and what they're voicing about where are some of these students who are not accounted for in the Department of Education, who haven't enrolled for schools online, and are they doing enough to reach out to some of those families to make sure that they're accountable? But as I said, it's very, very frustrating. But being informed, that article is a great place to start. And then I have a video down there, and if you haven't seen some of these videos, excuse me, of the smart city, yes, we'll get into a little bit of that. But let me get his name right, Glen Pascual, right? He's a YouTuber, and he was right there when the fire happened. And are the parents missing too? Yeah, that's a question that we can get into. Is like, if there are parents with missing children, you would think they'd be pretty vocal and loud, either through media or through social media. So Peggy, thank you. I do these videos because there's an audience and people enjoy them, so thank you. Are there school buses missing? The school bus issue is something, I've seen stuff, but I don't know enough about it to really talk about it in a very educated or critical way. So, but I am aware of some of the images, satellite images and photos of school buses leaving. But back to Glen Pascual. This guy was at the fire. He had to leave his van, and he had to jump the seawall right next to the ocean. And he has footage of that's gone pretty viral. But he also has footage. He was able to get back there like the day after, and he explains what happened. But it is a very surreal footage of someone right there in the middle of that fire. So check out Glen Pascual stuff, the Lahaina Fire-Seawall. And then, right, they just had a giant paddle out ceremony, which some of you may have seen on Maui. And Christina's here. Um, and I watched a couple of videos on them, and I have links to two of them. But it was a giant ceremony that I don't know how many people were engaged with it, but it was also the first time. I mean, it was the closest some residents have gotten to their properties a month out is by paddling out in the ocean where they had this giant, just beautiful ceremony with all these colors. But anyways, there's some great people doing work there covering this stuff, and one of them is Island Eye Production. His video Lahaina Maui 1 month after the fire. He's got great drone footage of the paddle out ceremony. He has some great footage of Lahaina before the fire, and he has some drone footage when they were able to drone right after the fire. So he has a short video there that for me they're all heart wrenching and trigger a whole bunch of feelings in my heart and soul when I have to, you know, I don't know. There's just so many emotions wrapped up with Maui, Lahaina. Yes. Hey, Melbourne, awesome. And then, in the links below that, I have another video with the Maui paddle out ceremony, healing after Lahaina fire. And this is a great emotional story told by Jonathan Pet, Petra Mala. Excuse me about that. But he tells a whole story in this video with great footage of people who were in the paddle out, people who were boat crew members who lost their homes, who were delivering stuff. It's I think a 20-minute plus video, um, and it is also very emotional. But it's great to hear some of the people, all the voices of the people who were affected, and also just stood up and rose to the occasion to help as the community had to rally as the somehow the county was just fumbling around with all sorts of things. So those are two great videos that just came out from yesterday that these guys put some great editing work into. And Maui's just a beautiful spot, so it really, you don't have to make Maui look too good, but it is heart wrenching to see those shots and the stories of people still not wanting to go get a little piece of jewelry, maybe, or something, anything left, and for some crazy reason, the emergency clause, I guess, overrides the Constitution. And look who I got here. Oh, it's Ash, kitty cat Ash. Let her go there. But uh, yeah, these people just can't even rummage around. They're willing to put on the safety stuff that the Department of Health is saying just so they can find something. And it's just so infuriating that it's blocked off. You can't get into your own place. It seems like property rights or private property just disappear for this dangerous emergency proclamation. So, but important to remember. Ash is going to say bye. So what else do I have in the links below? I have a story from KHON about from dream job to ashes. They did a great story on two people who were one woman who was her business was on Front Street and everything was burnt to the ground, um, and the other lady was a street artist who did portraits of people on the street, like comical portraits, and so they lost their livelihood, but it's a great story of support and resilience as they have a plan to go forward. And yeah, are you on board with the 808 Club? No, I'm not sure about that, but anyways, that's a great story. And then I also have the Blossom Inner Wellness. She did a video today, the spirit of Ho'oponopono, to strengthen the power of the people and help Maui. This video, she had this guy, let me get his name, Roger Christie on. And Roger Christie, military intelligence, or he has a background and tied to going to the army. But he stood up. He's not an attorney, but he actually, yeah, I've been watching some of her content. But the latest one that she came out with, this guy was, not an attorney, but he had taken on some battles with some high officials and government, and just understanding, um, you know, the county and or the ordinances, these codes that could kind of supersede, state or even federal, and that, these often in Hawaii, everywhere you swear an oath to the Hawaii Constitution, which, you have to uphold that whole. I mean, that's why you are swearing in. You swear in when you do it. But he took on, a story that has been happening on the Big Island since what I think of the Reagan years is, um, green harvest, and there's, helicoptering these things, and going up against the one of the chiefs of the Big Island, and be responsible for this guy stepping down him in this process. One of them being, sincerity. So I do recommend, you check out some of her videos. I believe she's on the Big Island. Um, and he also does offer some ideas of how we can, hold those in charge accountable. And, I think we all have some sort of role that we can do, whether it's, but also realize that, you know, yeah, we're out in the jungle here, so sorry about the connectivity till we can, get our Starlink on the roof that I have to finish. But I am back now, so, um, and let's see here. I was going over some of these stories. Um, there's not too much more I have to talk about, right? I have an article to the airlines pulling back and how Delta, um, will not be offering flights to Maui over the winter. However, they do have discounted flights from Seattle and San Francisco. I think it's $99 one way. Um, yeah, sorry about this signal. Um, and I also have an article there that talks about pop-up, um, homes on Maui and what they look like. I have a question there. How can people look at, it's really tough because nobody's allowed in, although they did allow people in on the first few days, and, they did allow, politicians, but, um, I don't know. The emergency proclamation sort of meant that, some of these constitutional rights are just temporary, I guess. So, but this is a story we've seen play out, I think, over and over. Um, oh yeah, there was another, interesting video that I found from. You have to look at it because I have the other device closed, but he goes into depth about everything that's happening. He's a big YouTuber, and he's, or I guess I don't know what big is, but he goes into depth of, like, the all the stories surround just the how to make sense of some of this on a larger scale, as well as going to depth, about, or confronting some of the different conspiracy theories that have emerged, and then also, right, there's ideas of the smart city. There's what Biden is doing, his response, his accountability for managing this disaster, the amount of money that's coming in, the issues with Ukraine. Um, but sorry I didn't get all those questions that just came up. But it's a great video to check out. Goes into blue roofs. He also talks about, right, Oprah and Bezos. Um, and, there's a lot of, there's so many parts going on in this issue. It's, it's hard to balance or juggle sort of some of the information that's coming out. And I think the biggest one is how that he points to is just how poorly, government responds to disasters, much like, what we saw happen in Katrina, and, the response by executive, like the state, people. I mean, it was just a complete disaster. So am I Marshall? Marshallese, I guess it was what you're referring to, right? Which is an island in the Pacific. No, I'm actually Portuguese and Hispanic. And my mom's side of the family is all Portuguese, from the Azores, and my dad's from the Midwest, and a mix. And they met actually here in Volcano. So, but thanks for asking. So, but yeah, the sort of how poorly government can manage these disasters. And he suggests that was the county just they didn't know what to do because it was so bad that they had no, they just had nothing to do. Was it really that? um how are my folks doing? Thanks for asking. Christina's going to see them tomorrow. We've been keeping in touch daily, sharing information. They're telling me what's happening in Kula in their community, and they're doing very well. They're going to have their roof replaced, but they were able to get to their home shortly after the evacuation was lifted, but their curtains were singed. Um, Luckily, my parents live just an island away, so my sister went to visit. I went to visit. My brother-in-law has gone to visit. So our family has been just spending as much time with them in Maui as we can. Yes, the blue roof. You know, what a phenomena. What a phenomena for sure. It just makes you really question a lot of things. Um, but what an odd phenomena for sure. Wind is the central factor. I wish I had done the math, the numbers, but I don't know how much more oxygen you're adding to a fire when you're talking about 60 to 70-mile-an-hour winds. But I'm sure somebody out there, or I can use GPT and maybe figure out what kind of energy we're adding to a fire when you have those kind of winds. Plus, the humidity was, it's so dry in all of Maui that it's a tinderbox, and there was many indicators from the county itself that these were areas were in high fire, danger zones, old wooden structures, giant trees everywhere, and then propane, gas, cars. It was just it was a town fire that, if anybody has seen, there was some like tornadoes in it, and there was a wind. The water spout was starting to form off the convection currents of it. So um, I've seen quite a number of fires on Maui, and they're all like their own spirit or have their own anger. And this one was just you know no mercy, and the county kind of caught off guard. So, and then still with so many questions, I thought about it kind of day one after seeing the response by so many of those officials that and I have made videos about sort of some edits on some of their response, and it's their lack of compassion, their belligerence, as well as we need them to be providing information more than ever and taking on the tough questions and having town halls rather than sort of hiding behind a lot of things. I don't know if anybody caught it, but yesterday Josh Green did have a Q&A with a number of people. Um, why the satanic? Oh, that piece you're talking about, that's actually a painting I did of a mixture of artwork that was done on a pentagram. So the thumbnail is old, some old artwork of mine. So, but with art, it's amazing how many people see different things that sometimes aren't intended or were sometimes were intended and it's suggested. So, um, did anyone get any soil samples independently? Good question. I believe people are testing the water, right? The water in um, Lahaina, the water in upcountry Kula still is not advisable to drink, and they're doing constant testing on it. my parents now have a wall of water at their house, and you know, you know, everybody has to, kind of live like us out here in Volcano, where we have to bring in our own water for um, cooking and. But I don't know about the soil samples. As soon University of Hawaii, yeah, I know University of Hawaii is involved in many ways, um, and they're also giving some economic forecast or outlooks and paying attention to the economic factor. So I didn't get that last question in that comment, but sampling, yeah. What I was saying is like basically once the feds came in, it was basically this disaster zone, and it was basically all the feds involved, and then and it was uh, but yeah, I said it before, right? Christina will be heading over to Maui tomorrow. Where do I send money? Thank you. Right, I've been running fundraisers for the Maui Food Bank and for the Humane Society, um, as just a general, organizations that I've helped with in the past on Maui and used in the past. Um, there are people who have Venmo accounts that you can do. I have a link to an Instagram where you can find some people. Um, Also, Maui Strong is a source that it has been doing quite a bit. Um, you know, Making sure your money goes into someone's hands there that is going to spend it and help the economy is important. How they get that money, gift card. Um, but I really urge you. Where there's a couple of families in my parents' neighborhood that we've put people in touch with, and we've had some success. People, I know my parents' friends are sending some gift packages with essentials. Um, Christina's aunt actually sent a check. So, and then being in it for the long haul, right? People are going to need support for quite a while. So, and then right, if anybody caught it yesterday, Josh Green was saying October 8th, that side of the island will be open to everyone. Right now it's shut to that side of the island's shut. They have checkpoints, and it's only if you're a local resident or helping out with the relief. But Josh Green announcing October 8th is um, is going to be the opening, and that's Maui's still open. They really had trouble once again, the state and the county, with their messaging on tourism, and now they're asking for people to come back, but I don't know how safe people feel with some of these people managing the county. If you want to go away to Hawaii and Maui and experience like a carefree um, holiday, you know, we live on the Big Island of Kauai. There's other islands, but Maui does need its tourism back, and it needs to have some money flowing in. So, if you have the means or you were thinking about it, it's probably going to be really inexpensive, right? Delta $99 one way from LA to Maui, but I don't know. So let's see if we get to October 8th. So true. If this disaster has taught me anything, it's like, boy, we really need to um, enjoy the moment, the day, and not think that tomorrow is going to look anything like today. We'd love to have it that way, but unfortunately, reality is such that you'd be living in paradise, and the next day you could have nothing, or even worse, just not even be. So, to me, it was completely devastating to realize my, I didn't live in Lahaina, I lived in Kula, but growing up in Maui, my whole, till I was 18, and then Christina and I lived there for um, almost 15 years before we moved to the Big Island, that it just hurt, and then for my parents and Kula to be, right in my right next to it, to drive through your neighborhood and see just ashes, and knowing those people who used to live there, it was and then to see the scarring of the land, Maui is so dry, um, and then the fire, it's like you would just see these valleys, these areas that are just, they appear naked now. So, um, my big concern with especially upcountry, and it's been an issue before, is with all this burnt area, when there's heavy rains or a heavy storm, they all come straight down the mountain. And the Olinda fire, which really it's the Olinda fire is still going for some of you who are not aware of it. These fires are not all, I think Lahaina is 100% contained. I'm not sure about that. Olinda and Maui still has some spots that they're tending to. So, aloha. Um, and so it's over a month and there's still hot spots, but that gulch that burnt in Olinda was gigantic gulch that goes from mountain to the top of Makawao, and that river just opens up to like this area of homes in Makawao. Kihei has been affected numerous times by fires on upcountry. There's a huge fire in Poli Poli that we could see from our bedroom when we were living in Kula, and you could actually we saw trees exploding. But when that came down the mountain with a heavy storm, there was houses that were just taken away from the gulches gets clogged with logs, and then the whole mountain comes down. And it's a good reminder, I think, of one of the sad stories of Maui, which is Maui has been transformed for, you know, hundreds of years. It was, and the effects of it are still being seen in land management and water rights. But in upcountry where I live, it's pasture land, and it's beautiful pasture land. And growing up, I would always see some Japanese tourists taking photos on the side of the road of like some cow in the pasture, and we're like, well, what are these people looking at? Like, we see this all the day, but it's it was grazed, and the whole landscape of East Maui was deforested and turned into grazing land from cattle. And there was efforts to replant things. Uh, Hosmer's Grove, they brought in pines. They brought in all these other things to try to keep the some of the climate effects of having those many trees in the mountain. But the whole landscape of where I live has been completely transformed by the ranching industry. And then below where I grew up is these fields. And my whole life there was just cane fields, redirected water from the the wetter part of the island to these cane fields, and they would just light these cane fields on fire, you know, and over the centuries, it was just constant cane and pineapple. And slowly that land has been developed into housing development. Um, but when Kane left, I actually have a whole playlist of fires from Maui that I need to pull up and share with you guys. But I filmed many of fires, and I filmed the last cane fire that was on Maui. After the last cane fire, like almost most of the island, these lands just went, and grass grew, it was dry. So it's been a fire season for many of years now in Hawaii, and people I think are now getting concerned on other islands about the management of this threat that is clearly on our doorstep. As it is apparent to me, it was literally at my parents' house. My parents were picking up ashes and charcoals and roof shingles from the neighbor's house that above that had just basically disappeared. So, well, thank you. So, right, the many of the stories of land grabs by these billionaires today, Bezos, Larry Ellison, and Oprah, there was big landowners, the plantation landowners, And some of this land, these huge amounts of land, are just left wild when there's nothing left in agriculture for them. So I know, I've written to my senators about some issues. Schatz has written back to me, but it's amazing how this is become such a political issue, and for some reason, it's like everybody has to pat their back who's a Democrat, and it's like, I know the criticism for Biden, I think, is rightfully so on this subject, on many of subjects, but touching a subject that's affecting me and my family, it's like, that guy just is, he was on vacation, and then he went on vacation before he came here. It's like, I don't know how anybody in those positions ever could have even a day off ever, and why would you want to take a day off from such an important job that needs like 90 hours a week to do, so yeah, Anne Marie, check her channel out, right? She just got a whole bunch of views on her video on Pelletier. I think was, I don't know, 15, 20,000 in the last 2 or 3 days, and that video is an investigation, or a brief investigation to some articles that we found about this guy who, boy, the cane companies, yeah. And the question about water rights, right? Big issue on the Hawaiian Islands, and right, the people of Hawaii, water and land were the same, like they're connected, and the people of Hawaii, the farmers, they would direct water off streams, but they always directed back to the streams, returning the water to the system. But what happened is, um, East Maui Irrigation built these ditches in the East Maui across the mountainsides, and these are amazing engineering feats that I've actually gotten to run along. My friend, his grandpa, was the head of EMI and had the keys to all these irrigation ditches. But these irrigation ditches go from like Hana, and they come all the way across the island, and you know the fight for that water, they're not returning it back to the source. They're redirecting the water away from the streams. So the people who live downstream in those areas, even if it rains, sometimes they don't get any water. Um, and yeah, Hawaiians, right? People, there was they don't exactly know how. I mean, 800 to a million Hawaiians living on these islands, and they came in waves from Polynesia, and were, stewards of the land, and flourished here, had their own road systems. Maui has a old Hawaiian road system that was been rebuilt, but yeah, so the water right now, a lot of that water that went to plantations. So all the sugarcane, which is like probably the most wasteful thing to grow in recent times, because sugar prices haven't gone up much, and the amount of water that it takes to grow sugar, that was completely subsidized too. So the sugarcane industry wouldn't have existed had it not been for these subsidies. A lot of people were employed, made a good living working for them, but it was jobs that were not sustainable with the sugar industry. So, and then that water then became a main resource for a lot of hotels and golf courses. So, the water rights, it's sort of a in-your-face thing, right? There's a nice waterfall right in Kahului Airport that is for, I guess, us to appreciate them using water for no good reason. And then, go to the Grand Wailea and go to some of those resorts in Wailea. The Grand Wailea has a giant waterfall as you drive in. The place is connected with ponds, and there's water everywhere over there. But up country in Kula, people from the 90s are still waiting for a water meter. So upcountry, they've been drilling wells for a number of years. I want to say 10 plus years. P.E. Holo had a well. They were drilling a well where we were living in Kula, and I don't know of any of them that have turned any valuable water. So, the because what has been done to the island on Maui over, you know, 100 plus years, it's a tinderbox everywhere, and then it becomes a very dangerous flooding situation, um, as we just see more and more erosion in this nasty cycle that is like hitting especially Maui from many angles. Maui is also suffering and from huge beach erosion. There's great satellite imagery if you ever want to look into what some of these beaches looked like 30, 40, 50 years ago. And the amount of beach erosion is stunning. We worked at a house landscaping, and friends showed me what it looked like before, when it was just a beautiful beach, and now it's just all rocks. So dust bowls too, yeah. Central Maui has nothing in it right now, although they are growing citrus and lemon. So do all the other islands have this issue too? Good question, Fly Girl. Right, we live on the Big Island, on the right. All the islands that face the trade winds, which come from the northeast, almost all those parts of the islands are green. So where we live, we get 220, 240 inches of rain. 1 month this year, we got 60 inches of rain. But if you go out to the south side of most islands, where Maui, Makena, Lahaina, those are the southern parts of the islands that don't get the trade winds that bring up the moisture from the ocean. They will get maybe an inch, maybe 10 inches. They really don't get much rain at all. So, and extended drought periods have been a problem for a number of, there's been droughts on and off on Maui, but they're in an exceptionally dry period. So many people maybe don't recall, but when the fire started, or there were the number of fires on Maui on August 8th, there was also fires here on the Big Island on the south side in Kala Ranch, and Mauna Kea Beach, they had to evacuate. So there was, they have red flag warnings for these situations, basically for this. And where we lived up country, we could see the old sugar mill, and when it was going, it was sort of a windsock for conditions. So I could easily see how strong the wind was in the morning, or when the winds picked up, and then I could see the surf in south and north side. So it was like the best surf report is, directions of the wind, and then actually seeing the swells. And every once in a while, Maui is like a little peanut with two islands. And where we worked in the North Shore, outside of Paia, is like the windsurfing capital of the world, and has some of the best windsurfers in the world, and watermen and women, at competitions there, including Jaws is not too far away. That wind just comes straight through the islands and circles around. So when there were high wind days, which weren't that often, they issue a red flag, and you knew that if there was a cigarette butt or an ash, if there's just the ocean's all white caps, and the central island's a dust bowl, it's there's just dry energy in the form of grass and trees and brush and everything else. There was many of wildfires that I witnessed growing up, and for the last 15 years we were there, from 2005 to 2019. Lahaina had a fire. There was, houses were lost, but of this scale is just, now Lahaina's in the history books for, the worst modern day disaster, and it's like, easy to be critical on everybody, but at the same time, the reality of that is that it did happen, and the disaster is sort of you know continuing. I think with some of these people still standing in office, I really don't know why Bisson or John Pelletier are making this so much more painful for everyone else, and really not giving a clear message of do we whereas we need to have trust in these officials and make sure that they can actually recognize when they mismanage something, so that all of us who you know these public servants, hopefully they can need to be held accountable of some sort. But I their management of it is, that's why we're still talking about it. That's why it's still an issue. That's why I think there are people that I've seen on YouTube who are paying attention to this story, and the so many questions that are still surrounding it. Yeah, I don't know if they're just going to wait for the lawsuits to get them out of office, or there may be some other. There's that video I have below about this guy who's not an attorney, of how he was able to really put some pressure on some people and actually take. I think he took a number of people to court on impeachment here in Hawaii. So great video, and very admiring, and citizen, individual activism that actually can result in something. So sometimes I guess we have to get off our butt and do our carry the weight. Otherwise, who's gonna carry the weight for us? We're all clearly in this together, as these issues bring up socioeconomic, so many issues in terms of government accountability, response. FEMA's got a very mixed record in the past with, however, there's people on the ground doing good, and there are stories of people who are getting help, but there are stories of people that are giving up, all things good all the time. It sounds like, you don't have the right paperwork, you've lost everything. How can you do some of these things, so. Yeah, please look into some of those videos in the description bar. That's one thing I'm trying to do, is provide people with stories that I find interesting, points of view that I think are interesting, that or people who have made some quality content, and whether it's sentimental or showing that paddle out session. That was just I paddled canoe growing up, and I still stand up paddle with Christina, and the love of the water, and just seeing the whole community come out, and it was beautiful. Also, yesterday I did go to a festival, Liliuokalani festival in Hilo, and I posted 2 videos. It was lucky to live Hawaii and Hilo. It was a tribute to the queen, who had ties to the park, and there was different hula halau set up around, and besides the ceremony, they all did hula, and while they were doing hula, a helicopter was dropping pua flowers from the sky, orchids, and a whole bunch of flowers. So as these people were doing hula, it was raining flowers on us, and people were stationed doing hula in different spots. The community came out, there was prayer said for Maui, a moment of silence in the beginning, but it was just an amazing free festival at this beautiful park, and just some beautiful hula, giving, I often find that even with this story here, right, the human condition is nothing more than the human story, and oral history and people's accounts of things, I think, play a part for all of us to be informed and educated about what's going on. So yeah, check it out. I made a long video that's over 39 minutes, and I made a shorter video that kind of highlights 2 of the hula performances. And if you haven't seen hula, Hilo has the Merry Monarch Festival every year, and that is the premier hula event globally. And I I've had friends and family who have participated in that, but it is I can't imagine. I haven't gone to it here, but they say just the smell of the flowers alone is like overwhelming. So yeah. No, I haven't been to the Merry Monarch. The Merry Monarch, right? You have to apply for tickets unless you know somebody, and I don't know anybody there, but you have to apply for tickets like right after the year, and it's like a lottery system. And we've applied for the lottery. We missed it this year, but we'd love to go. During the pandemic, I think they last year they just had uh, the event held, but they didn't have any people watching. So I think that is something that and the Iron Man is something that I've been wanting to watch. Didn't get to see it this year, right? With the Maui Lahaina opening October 8th, somebody asked Green about the Lahaina Invitational, and he said that looks like it might be a go. So, right, there's an NCAA tournament every year at Lahaina Civic Center, right outside Lahaina, right by Kaanapali, and you know, maybe that will be a go. I know uh, there's a golf tournament out in Kapalua, so uh, but it's going to be tough making it to December, I think, for a lot of people in Maui. Does sound like a lot of people have already left, somewhat of an exodus on Maui. That was happening before these incidents, but the cost of living is so high, and it's just very difficult to make it in the service industry in Hawaii anywhere. So, yeah, great from Canada. You think Roseanne lives on the Big Island? Oh, people need to take their land back. Interesting enough, there is a strong movement here, and I did have a video in one of my previous live streams about an individual who went and found his name on land title and was able to reclaim land that was properly his and started living on it. So there's also another video. I think Al Jazeera had a video on Mark Zuckerberg, who lives on Kauai, and how he was using a company with I don't know, it's very sneaky, not too sneaky, I guess. But he was trying to buy property for pennies on the dollar from these people who actually had Hawaiian claimed and title to these plots of lands, where it's like multiple people are on these deeds, but I think he was offering $400, $800 for this lady's land next to where he has a huge estate in Kauai. So far, he's tried to hold out the laurel wreath and sign a peace, where I think he's backed down from those lawsuits. But good old Zucker creating a controversy on Kauai, owning a huge piece of land there, and growing up on Maui, certain areas you'd go to the beach, and the owner would build they put bougainvillea, which is this very thorny plant, and it looks beautiful, but it's like barbed wire basically, and it keeps people out. But here in Hawaii, beaches are public land, and you can't keep people off the beach here. So Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos has a home in La Perouse on South Maui, and one of the gems of it, it's like surrounded by a fish reserve, and there's some awesome surf spots over there, as well as this trail that goes and wraps around the island almost all the way out to Kaupo area. But his house has a little beach in front of it, and it's protected by this reserve. And then there's only one way to get there. But I don't think there's anything that's keeping any of us back from just going and stand up paddling and going hang out at Jeff Bezos beach. I'm not recommending that. But here in Hawaii, as much as these people try to keep people out, the access to the water, the beach is public. When I first went to Massachusetts, when I went to college at Bentley College, I went to the singing beach there in the summer, and it was way too hot. But I couldn't believe you had to pay to go to the beach. In Hawaii, you never have to pay to go to the beach. It's just you can go jump off of rocks and go in the ocean anywhere. So, kind of this story of private property and people trying to keep people out all the time. So, There's also some issues in Kapalua, some private landowners who were keeping people out of this area where, I could go jump off a cliff, and it always backfires on them. So, same here in Malibu. Malibu, what a beautiful spot. One of my friends growing up in high school, his dad has a house there in Malibu, and you know, beautiful surf spot. And I guess Malibu's had some fires as well. So um, it's awful to look at the map of where there are fires right now because it looks like they're everywhere. Crooks running Maui. Yeah, maybe, but right, it's also important to realize that a lot of people who live there, there's a lot of heroes there on Maui, and there's a lot of sweet people that I've been fortunate enough to interact with some great coaches, and you know, I spent my whole high school like as a runner, an athlete, and I also paddled canoe, but running was my love and passion, and you know, the people that I got to interact with who supported me on Maui, my family, the strength and unity that you have coming from such a unique remote spot. You know, there is some amazing people who have called Maui their home or who were born and raised in Maui. And Kai Lenny is one of the people I look up to. He was the first guy going out there with jet skis to help people because people were calling him and saying, "Hey, nobody's here, nobody's helping us." But I've had some pretty incredible people that I've met from Maui, as well as when I moved back to Maui, I started my career as an artist, doing paintings of landscapes and flowers and the people of Hawaii and the history of Hawaii. So Maui, Hawaii, but especially Maui, and where we live here in Volcano, is sort of a calling spot for artists and a basketball fan, and it's the colors, the landscape, plus the people, makes it a very vibrant place to do artwork. So beach erosion or sea level rise, both really. We are seeing the highest tides on recorded history, which they've been keeping in Pearl Harbor for a while. Of And right, the king tides. Growing up, we didn't really have king tides. I guess they were always there, but now in the summer, full moon, we're seeing just flooding in Oahu and other areas. So, and then when we have storm systems or a hurricane that brings additional swell plus a king tide, and then erosion from above on from rain, it's like and plus they've been using the sand in Maui to build a lot of Oahu cement. They mined a lot of sand off the islands, um, and then things are just naturally changing too. But Maui's known for its beaches, so it's you were there in 2000. Yeah, I'm sure anybody who's on the stream now who has ties to Maui or Hawaii or have been to Lahaina, I'm sure it aches all of your hearts as it does mine. Um, Growing up on Maui is also um, constant changes are the only constant in the world. Yeah, right. That's a philosophy um, that I try to stick by, which is also the way of saying, well, you can't step in the same river twice, or yeah, that there's nothing but change in the world, and we sure experiencing quite a bit of it now altogether here, as things like the internet make more stories, more people able to tell their stories. Volcano Puna, very dangerous place. Um, yeah, it can be. There's people who go missing here. There is crime. The police take a while to respond here, but there's also a lot of people who have goodwill and the sense of like people on our road and our community are really strong. But yeah, Puna is a wild west out here, and people live off grid, and all sorts of people live out here. So it is a place to respect others as well as the land. Yeah, that rally. I need to look into that rally more tomorrow. I don't know if anybody out there knows about it, but I did hear about a rally, um, and you know, Eric West has been going through a roller coaster on this whole thing, as we all probably have been trying to make sense of exactly, you know, what's going on. Why are these people still running things while they just clearly don't know how to manage an emergency at the very least? And then how is Maui going to recover with no tourism, its main source of income there? So, you know, the issues with FEMA, the Ukraine war, and the Biden's response, and it's true. Yes, FEMA is what, $700, but there's also, I think, a cap of like $41,000 or something that they can go to a family. But still, Hawaii. I was looking through the grocery store today to look at some things just to see, hey, am I just that crazy? But milk is like $9 about. Eggs $12.99. Everything here is very, very expensive. So making it here, just to cook your own food, to feed yourself, $700 for a family, that's not really gonna do too much. Even things that, the basic things, eggs and milk, bread, are very expensive here. Yeah, we're fortunate here in Volcano. We have a farmers market, and we actually are able to get produce that's locally grown from farms here, organic farms. For sometimes the papayas are 50 cents, 75 cents. So buy a chicken. Yeah, actually, we did have chickens. We have a chicken coop lying by the side. Some dogs got to them, and we had to lose our two girls. But we do have plans on, my parents have always had chickens. Growing up, we always had chickens. My grandparents had, he raised turkeys and slaughtered them. And so we've always had chickens around, and we've always gotten our eggs that way and feed them our scraps. And they're just great, great animals to have around. They can be sweet animals, and they eat all the insects. And, so chickens, we're here on the Big Island off grid, for some of you who don't know. And 503 for gas. Yeah, I think it's 45 here. Prices vary on the island, so yeah, my heart is hurting from Maui as well. But we're getting up to an hour here, so I'll take a few more questions. Thank you, Christine. Yeah, I'm just trying to keep this conversation going with some stories that I find are important and want to share with you guys. What you do with that is really in your hands. But just coming from the island of Maui, and caring about what's happening there, and the stories, good and bad, sharing them, and because I'm very interested and of what's happening and what's going to happen, and how we all move forward. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no baloney. It's been just over an hour. I'm trying to keep these around an hour, but I'm just glad there's enough people who are still interested in this conversation. Guam, awesome. Yeah, Starkey, that's right. We'll be there tomorrow. I think Maui is now calling the attention for more and more people to look into what's going on here. So, if you don't live in Hawaii, maybe writing your senator or someone and putting more pressure of, hey, let's have an investigation go on here, because we need some sunlight on some of this stuff that's going on. Did you locate the school buses? No, I did not. That's a story I've been kind of following sort of on the side, but there's so many stories going on, and positive things going on, as well as shady things going on. So it is quite a bit to keep track of. So ho'okipa. Yeah, I heard McCarthy showed up. He had been to Lahaina sometimes. It was really unfortunate to see none of the Democrat officials with him while he was on stage. But we need attention here on Maui is as much as ever. So yeah, America wants justice and investigation. I think America, who are the people who right, all of us who make up America, really gotta keep the flame on these people so that you know, an issue I follow closely is the UAP issue, the UFO issue, and I'm interested in many levels. I'm interested in government accountability, trust. I'm interested in the legal elements of it, and with without getting into too much depth, one of my biggest concerns with some of these bigger stories like UFOs or right. I don't know if anybody read about what is the bodyguard for JFK. Coming out with some new stories. Is that the trust, which is what binds us? We the people and the people who serve us. That trust is like must be at an all-time low. Whether that's state or federal level, and um, does it have to go lower so that we can rebuild it, or can we just start rebuilding it now? That's really big questions as far as those who make the big decisions, and whether there's so much money in the political process at so many different levels that the truth and transparency gets hidden from us. So I've said this before. Kind of Pauline. Yeah, I've taken some footage of the King's Tide before it because it is pretty nutty. So, but I've said this before in this station. I have often found solace in reading great literature, and George Orwell comes to point as is this guy really was giving us some saying, hey, there's some smoke here, people. And his book Animal Farm, as well as 1984, had always left an impression on me from the first time I read them, and I do go back to them. I'm also a philosophy and political science major from the University of Oregon, so I studied politics. My focus was on corruption. I focused specifically on the Salt Lake City Winter Olympics and state level, all the way up to the International Olympic Committee, and how so much money and gifts and bribes were used to make sure that these projects were built. So, and then in philosophy, I studied Eastern philosophy and existentialism. So I've always found comfort in going back to some of these authors that really have shaped my or grounded me. I studied a lot of Nietzsche, and Nietzsche, dark as he is, was a great critic and very educated on the ways politics, the way human history, the narration of human history, and the way it's edited for those in power. And so I always take solace in some of the education that I had and navigating through what's happening now, because there have been people and authors, as well as James Cameron, Avatar. Is that about colonialism? Is that about greed? Is that about the burning of land and removing people out of their home? It's all so parallel to what's happening that there's not much need, I think, to watch some entertainment when you just have to watch what's happening around us, and it's breathtaking at the speed of so many things, right? Artificial intelligence, robotics, management of disasters. It's just it's a lot to take in, control it in your own hands, but it's something I'm trying to do daily, and have this conversation here. And once again, thank you guys for being here, and as long as there's people who want to hear some of my thoughts and share this, I'll try to do some updates. I don't know how often I'll do updates, but I know I constantly looking through this information about what's happening on Maui, and I'm keeping in touch with my parents there in Kula. Right, the issue of lasers, right? we did have some strange issues here, right? We had green lasers over Mauna Kea a while ago, and it wasn't really clear what that was about. That was just like those objects that the government shot down, and it wasn't really clear what they were, where they were. I mean, there was a balloon they shot down, but there's mysterious things going on all over the place, as well as what happened in East Palestine and that disaster, and Biden not showing up for there. So we're in a whole bunch of disasters that, um, you know, I guess vacation is more important than taking care of all these people who you're supposed to work for. So, um, yeah, the YouTube is, I just have it on, I don't have any moderating, so there might be some messages blocked automatically, and I think eventually I'll probably get Christina or somebody to help moderate. So, if I continue doing this. Ah, yes, the Russian authors. I'm just reading A Day in the Life of Ivan Ivanich, and that's, whew, talk about the hero who, it's just a whole, the fact that the book came out is amazing, and it's just the day in the life. This guy is at a concentration camp in Russia, and he's saving his bread. It's cold, it's winter, but it resonates in that this guy's just, barely making it to the day, but he is actually the hero of the book. And it's a short read. It's like 140 pages, but some of the Russian authors, the element of human psychology that they touch upon in religion is like, and the human soul and spirit, great stuff. So but you guys, I'll be taking off here from Volcano, Hawaii, trying to keep you guys all updated and informed, and yeah, the dark stuff. Having been interested in a lot of things, like I was a fan of Nikola Tesla from a kid, and I remember reading about his late 30s death ray gun, right? And what the FBI seized many of his documents. And I've been following what Lockheed Martin and Skunk Works is doing and developing, in part because of the UAP issue, but I'm also aware that it doesn't take much. You just look up Lockheed Martin and direct energy weapons, and they've been developing these weapons for decades now, and I think they just announced that, like, the Lockheed Martin had the largest one. So it's like, I don't think that was the cause of the fire that destroyed Maui, but at the same time, DoD is like eagerly pushing forward this sort of technology on, what boats, planes, it's, dangerous stuff that we're playing with, and especially when you think about AI, right? They have AI flying fighter jets, and, whew, once again, James Cameron, Terminator 2. Was he writing about science fiction, or was it just the world we live in? So, yeah, those weapons are scary, scary stuff. But Lockheed Martin, they've been talking about it forever. It's like, and then right, Nikola Tesla, that's like pre-World War II, and he was way ahead of his times in a lot of this technology. Remote controlled, wireless. Yeah, all our electronics, there's some tie to Nikola Tesla, so yeah, great book. So, um, all right, you guys, take care. Make sure, give those you love a hug. Something that's important I found with this whole incident in Maui is asking people, how are you doing? Here in Hawaii, we have something called talking stories. That's what I'm trying to do with you guys, just talk stories. And it's something we can all do. So share stories, talk stories, ask people how they're doing, and smile. Enjoy the day, and I will catch you on another day. So, yeah, love to y'all. Take care.